Hi, I'm bigcal and welcome to my world. Today I'm going to be taking a look at my 2026 wish list for gaming. So I've done this for a few years now, and what I do is I basically come up with a list of things I would very much like to see happen from the world of gaming throughout the next year. And then when I do the next video, I go over the previous year's list to see if any of it happened. So let's go over 2025's list. I have my notes here because I won't remember it all if I don't look at the piece of paper. So we'll start with one of my wishes for 2025 was for Dino Crisis to either get a remake or a remaster. Capcom continue to let us down with their obsession with Resident Evil. We did get re-releases of Dino Crisis 1 and 2 on PC through Good Old Games, so that was nice. Yep, those are available to play on modern system, at least on the PC, but we still don't have, a big remake or even just a remaster or even these ports put onto consoles yet. So we're still not there, Capcom. Still not there, are we? And then next on my list was Twisted Metal. They had the second series of the TV show and still no sign of a new game. Like I said, last year we did have rumours and everything of a Twisted Metal game, but it was going to be some online co-op garbage and just no, go away. So thankfully that was cancelled, but it doesn't seem that they're making anything, to match up with the new TV show or anything. And season 2 was fantastic. I had a blast with it. You'd think they would try and build on the momentum of the TV show, but no, it doesn't appear that they're even thinking of making a game. So that sucks. Next then we have Dragon Quest stuff. So the first obvious one was Dragon Quest 12. New information, a new trailer, anything. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah. Then Dragon Quest Builders 3. Nope. No Dragon Quest Builders 3. However, we did at least get Dragon Quest HD 2D 1+2. We already knew that was happening, but it came out in 2025, and I can't wait to talk about that at Dragon Quest Tober later this year. There's going to be a video on the 3 Dragon Quest HD 2D releases. But what we did get was the announcement and reveal of Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, which I don't think anyone was expecting. But it was a big anniversary for Dragon Quest VII, so I guess that was their thinking. And Dragon Quest VII is one of those very divisive games in the series. As a huge fan of Dragon Quest, I really like Dragon Quest VII. I played through it twice on the 3DS only at the moment, and I really like it, but I would have a hard time actually recommending it to people. Unless you're a huge Dragon Quest fan, it's not the game in the series I'd say, oh, you want to get into Dragon Quest or JRPGs? Play that one. No, I wouldn't. But this reimagined version does look to fix a lot of issues that the game has with pacing and everything like that. And the visual style, I am so happy they didn't go with HD 2D for it. While I love that style, and it really works for a lot of games, I don't think Dragon Quest VII would have benefited from that style. So it now has this new style, which just looks absolutely gorgeous. And it comes out in February. I've got it on pre-order for the PS5, but if I do get round to playing it this year, it will be very late in the year, because this year I have to get through Dragon Quest VI for Dragon Quest Tober, as well as a few other bits and pieces, and then when I get started on Dragon Quest VII for Dragon Quest Tober next year, I will have to play the PS1 and the 3DS version first before I move on to this new version. Yeah, so the odds of me playing Dragon Quest VII Reimagined in 2026 is slim, but the fact that it's coming out, that it's a thing, is pretty awesome. So we didn't get some of the things I wanted with Dragon Quest, but we did get this out of nowhere, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. Then moving on to another JRPG series, The Legend of Heroes Trails. So, yeah, wanted a rough release date for the next game, which is Trails Beyond the Horizon, and we got that. coming out on the 15th of January. That date has been and gone. I think it's the 16th or 6th. What day is it today? It's the 16th today, but I've had it for 2 days. I got it a day early. Oh, it is so good. I am having a blast with it. I have recorded an unboxing, but it's going to be part of a bigger Legend of Heroes Trails video. I'm just waiting on one more item to arrive in the post, and it's probably going to be a big video, like well over an hour, unfortunately. But hopefully it'll be entertaining. We'll see. But yeah, so I wanted a release date for that. We have it, and now we're up to date with Japan, so that's cool. And I also, when they announced Trails in the Sky First remaster, which came out in September, I think, which again, phenomenal, absolutely amazing. I was hoping that they would announce, the release of the second and third games in the trilogy. And yep, Trails in the Sky second chapter will be out towards the end of the year. Amazing, because that might very well be the best in the series, and get it in this new 3D style is going to be phenomenal. There is a bit of a weird issue now with the third game. Yeah, but we'll get more into that when I go through this year's list of what I want to see. So, yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, and then my last bit, no, sorry, not the last bit, the second to last bit was Switch 2 2025 releases. The Switch at this point hadn't come out, it hadn't been revealed, I don't think, or had it? So I know they showed something off in January, I think. It's like, hey, here it is. And then like, oh, wait another 8 weeks before we properly show it off. So it was very weird how they did that. But yeah, these are things that I wanted it to for them to bring out in 2025 for the Switch 2. Mario Kart 9. And yep, it ended up being a launch title. I haven't played it because I don't have a Switch 2. But yeah, it looks pretty good. But it's really weird. People aren't really talking about it that much. I don't think it's going to end up being thought of better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe when it's all said and done. But yep, it's there. It looks really good. I wanted the new 3D Mario game. No, that never happened, unfortunately. They decided instead to do a new Donkey Kong game with Donkey Kong Bonanza, the first 3D Donkey Kong since 64 on the N64. Yeah, so interesting choice, but I do like the variety. I do like that they were doing something a bit different. But the new 3D Mario, at least an announcement of it would have been nice, but never happened. I would have loved to have seen Captain Toad 2 get an announcement or something like that, because I love the Captain Toad game. It is fantastic. The Wii U version is the one I originally played. I don't have it on 3DS, I don't think. Where are we? No. I don't own the 3DS version. Maybe I'll have to pick up that at some point. But I do have the Switch version, which is just the same game but in better quality. And then instead of the Super Mario 3D World levels that were thrown in at the end, we now have Mario Odyssey levels. So there is some new content there. It's a phenomenal game. I'd love to see a sequel, but nothing was announced. And then I wanted a new Mario Paint because, they must have shown off. They must have mentioned what the console was before I did this video last year, because mouse controls. I thought that'd be perfect for using the mouse controls. No, new Mario Paint. However, we do have the Switch version on Nintendo Switch Online, and you can use the Switch 2 mouse controls for it, or you can plug in a USB mouse if you're on Switch 1 as well, I believe. So that's pretty cool. It is nice to at least have that, but a new full-fledged one would be really cool for the Switch 2. And then lastly, I wanted the Gex trilogy, because this got announced so many years ago from Limited Run, and they're like, yep, it's going up for pre-order in 2023, towards the end of the year. Nothing happened. It's going up for pre-order in 2024. Nothing happened. Going up for pre-order in 2025 and get released. Finally happened, and it finally actually came out. And the physical version finally on the Nintendo Switch. So, yay! That actually bloody happened after years of waiting. Oh, so yeah, not a lot of stuff that I wanted on my list actually happened. But yeah, a bit of a shame. So let's go into 2026 wishes for what I want to happen in the world of gaming. So we'll start off again with Dino Crisis, a remake or a remaster. Come on, Capcom. We get it. Resident Evil's pretty good, especially Resident Evil 4. But how many times do we need it remade, remastered, and ported to systems when Dino Crisis is right there? It's right there. And of course, Twisted Metal. Come on. It looks like there's definitely going to be a Season 3 of Twisted Metal. How about a game to go along with it? No. It doesn't seem that hard, but, big corporations and companies, they just don't think like us, do they? Yeah. Okay, so let's move on now to one of the big things, Dragon Quest. So this year will be the 40th anniversary of the original Dragon Quest game, so I'm expecting them to go all out with announcements and reveals and maybe even some releases. Who knows? So obviously we have Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined coming out. Sorry, something stuck on my tongue there. Coming out in February. That's cool. But hey, how about Dragon Quest 12 news? This year will be 9 years since Dragon Quest 11 was released. 9 years. And since then, we've seen one little teaser for Dragon Quest 12, and that's it. Please give us some information, a new trailer, anything. We know it's still being worked on, but for God's sake, show us something. Please. And then, of course, yes, Dragon Quest Builders 3. I really want Dragon Quest Builders 3. I love the Dragon Quest Builders series, and I want a third one, damn it. A third one. Give it to me. Right. Yeah, how about, since they're doing lots of remakes and things, the Zenithian trilogy, Dragon Quest 4, 5, and 6. They are some of the best games in the series, very highly thought of by the majority of people. At least 4 and 5, 6 is one of those bit iffy ones, but for me, it was my first Dragon Quest game, so I love it a lot. I'm very much looking forward to replaying it for Dragon Quest Tober this year and talking about it back later in October. So yeah. But yeah, let's have the announcement at least that you're doing this trilogy as well. But I would like them to once again use a different art style. HD 2D was perfect for the first 3 games. Whatever they're doing for Reimagined 7 looks fantastic and great. But let's maybe switch it up and do something different for this particular trilogy. Just to switch it up a bit and separate the games a bit so you can see, oh, that's a trilogy, those go together. Oh, this is another trilogy and they're a bit different than that one, and that goes together like this with the art style and things. It'd just be cool to see, I think. Yeah. And then how about, since it's the 40th anniversary of Dragon Quest, you give people outside of Japan Dragon Quest 10. The 10th mainline game. And most of us haven't played it because it's only been released in Japan. Originally, it was just an MMO, online multiplayer game. And then, a few years back, they released an offline version. The art style is more chibi or whatever is it called? Is that what it's called? It's been so long since I've used that word. It doesn't sound right. But yeah, it's got those type of graphics, so it doesn't look as good or anything, but there is an offline version of it. So when they released that, I thought, oh, an offline version. Well, obviously, that's the one they'll translate and bring over to the West, and they don't have to mess about with the whole online thing. That'd be really cool. Nope, we've heard nothing. It doesn't seem like they have any intentions of it. But it'd be really nice if they announced they were bringing it to the West in English, so we could play it and understand what's going on. Please, I'd like to play the 10th Dragon Quest game. That's not too much to ask, is it? And then lastly, I would like another spin-off game. Yeah, we're going to have more spin-off games, other than obviously Builders 3, which I want. So for this, what did I write down? Yeah, so it could be a new Monsters game. It seems that Dragon Quest Monsters of the Dark Prince did really well for them. It sold over 1 million copies, which might not sound a lot for some series, but for Dragon Quest, especially the spin-off title, the Monsters title, 1 million was very, very well done. Especially because it's stuck on the Switch for consoles and then came out like a year later on PC. So to do that many numbers, I think for just what it released on is fantastic. So maybe a new Monsters game, maybe just the fifth one in the main series, or another Joker game. That'd be cool to have. Let's see what else we got. The Return of Rocket Slime. Yeah, that'd be cool. That might finally get me get my arse in gear to play the one that I have on the DS that released over here, and then to check out the Japanese exclusive ones as well. And speaking of Japanese exclusive games, how about Mystery Dungeon? A lot of people, they associate Mystery Dungeon with Pokemon. The first Mystery Dungeon game was Dragon Quest with what's his name? Torneko Taloon or Taloon Torneko. Basically the large shopkeeper from Dragon Quest 4. So it was basically him going in dungeons and battling enemies to collect items and wares and whatnot to sell. I've been meaning. I've got the English translated ROM of the Super Nintendo game. I own the Japanese version of one of the PS1 versions, I think, or the PS2, one of the two, or maybe both. So I would like to get around to playing those. So if they could release either a new one or maybe a collection of the old ones translated into English, just an idea, that'd be really cool to see. Or we could get something completely and totally different, something brand new, as long as it's not in the style of Infinity Strash. That's just a really bad game. Maybe even Treasures 2. I really like Treasures. That was a really, really fun, unique game. I don't think he got the love and attention that it deserves. It was a very fun game. Check it out. So that's what I would like to see for Dragon Quest for the 40th anniversary. There's a lot there. We're not even going to get half of that, I don't think, but just something to look forward to. Please give me something. Okay, then we'll move on to the Legend of Heroes Trail stuff. Again, I would like a rough date for the next release, because now we've caught up with Japan, so I don't know if we're going to get to the point where they're going to try and do a worldwide release. I believe they did it for the Trails in the Sky first remake. So maybe they're going to try and do that with the main new releases as well for whatever comes beyond Trails Beyond the Horizon. That'd be awesome. But I'd just like to know, when's it coming out? Is it going to be next year for the because we usually get a yearly release now, or we're going to wait a little bit longer? Whatever it is, just I'd like some information. And then I would like confirmation on Trails in the Sky the Third, because it seems there's some interesting topics online now and things where they don't seem to know if after Trails in the Sky Second Chapter remake, if they're going to do the third game or move on to the first game in the Crossbell arc. Which confuses me, because why wouldn't you just go in order? Just do the third game, that's the Sky trilogy out of the way, then move on to the two Crossbell games. In order. That seems like common sense to me, but I don't know, there's always a weird thing about Trails in the Sky the Third. It's definitely the black sheep of the Trails game family. It's not one I'm particularly fond of, but I think if a new 3D remake came out, it could be finally the version that will get me to love the game. And if it gets me to love the game, I'm pretty sure it'll help a lot of new fans to the series love the game, like Trails in the Sky first remake has been doing. So yeah, give us the third one before you move on to the Crossbell games, especially since the Crossbell arc, isn't that old for a lot of people, because I think the Trails from Zero came out in 2020. Finally got a modern port in English for the first time officially since its release back in Japan on the PSP. So yeah, the two Crossbell games aren't that old for a lot of people. This Trails in the Sky the Third never got an English release on the PSP. It was only released in Japan, and then it only has had a PC port since then in English. So for a lot of fans, yeah, they probably haven't played the third game, so releasing it on a modern system, remade in 3D, proper 3D and everything, would be nice before the Crossbell games. So yeah, do that. And then lastly, I would like a reason to buy a Switch 2. I think the first one is to not increase the price, but it seems like that is unfortunately going to be an inevitability. It's probably going to happen because of AI slop and all the CEO tech losers. Like, oh, AI, hop, 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 hop. and they're just buying up RAM and pricing everybody out of it, and they're buying up graphics cards again and storage, and everything's just going up in price because they just want to try and increase their AI capabilities, even though AI for the most part and how they're using it is utter shite. So that's increasing parts prices, and that's going to force, unfortunately, console makers to increase prices. We've already seen that with the PS5 and the Xbox, whatever Xbox is called these days. It is probably going to happen with the Nintendo Switch 2. So even if it does get a price increase, I would still like some reason to still want to buy it. So those reasons would be a new 3D Mario game, obviously. Fairly certain we will get one, but it's just a case of when, because when did they finish making Donkey Kong Bonanza? Was it like right down to the wire to release it when it did, like a month and a half after the Switch 2? Or have they had that one in their back pocket for, a year and a half maybe, and they've been working on the new Mario title, and, that might be, a year and a half into development already, and with it being Nintendo, it probably won't take that much longer compared to a lot of other big AAA games. So yeah, even if they just announce a trailer, hey, it's coming 2027, show it off. Let us see what the gimmick of the next Mario is going to be. Very excited for what that could be. And then we have the next gen Pokemon game. We've had obviously the Legend ZA spin-off, which is fine. I've not played it, but it looks fine. It doesn't interest me as much as some other games, but at some point I will get it when I get a Switch 2 probably, because it's going to run and look better than it does on Switch 1. So I'm going to wait for that one, but I would like an announcement of the new Pokemon gen, and they do seem to be taking their time for a change, which is very, very nice and very much appreciated. So hopefully we won't get the insane performance issues that we had with Scarlet and Violet. Because that's a huge shame, because those are two of the best Pokemon games, in my opinion. The fact that they do play well on Switch 2 is nice, but it would have been nice if they played well on the Switch 1 when they were released. Yes, I would like to see the next new Pokemon game, and hopefully they'll have more time to polish it up a bit, make it look nicer and run nicer, and just see what they do with the Pokemon series, if they're going to continue with this big open world stuff and how they're going to improve on that. Yeah. And then, so I would also like to see some new cartridge types. There are already rumours swirling around about this, about them having smaller capacity, so indie games and things can afford the cartridges much easier to put their games on, so they don't have to spend all the money for the what size is it? 64 gigabytes? Yeah, I think that's the normal size. Yeah, so obviously a lot of indie titles are considerably smaller than that, but it costs too much for them to get this new high-speed, Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge. But then on the other hand, I would like to see them have higher speed cartridges, because apparently one of the issues with some of the bigger AAA titles coming to the Switch 2, and while a lot of them are digital only with the game keycards and things, is because the Switch 2 cartridges aren't as fast as the internal memory, or the SD Extreme cards, or whatever they're called. So that is a problem. So even if a game could fit onto the cartridge, it's not going to run as well off the cartridge compared to the internal storage. So a lot of companies are like, well, if it's not going to run well on that, why would we release it on that? Even if fans really want it, they're just going to be disappointed with the performance. And because Nintendo have this weird thing where they're not going to let companies, install even part of the game onto the console so they can run the important stuff off the internal storage and the rest from the cartridge or whatever. Yeah, that's not going to happen, sadly. So I'd like to see some improvements with the cartridges so we can have genuine, actual, physical games still. Because that would be nice. In case you haven't noticed, I quite like my physical collection, and the Switch 2 having so few physical games is just depressing. It really, really is. And lastly then, so I don't see this actually being announced in 2026, unfortunately, but I thought I'd add it on anyway. And then with the price increase likely to happen, this is going to be even worse if it were to happen. But that is a hardware revision of the console. Like with the Switch 1, we got the Switch 1 OLED. Now the Switch 2 despite having a much better screen, still has some screen issues. It's not an OLED for starters. A lot of people are complaining about the HDR and how not particularly great it is, and then also with a lot of ghosting issues when you're playing in handheld mode. So yeah, I would like to see an improvement on that front at the very least, just with the screen. I mean, I never jumped on board with the Switch OLED because I already had a Switch, but a new hardware revision for the Switch 2 might entice me to finally buy my first Switch 2, even if it ended up costing more. Yeah, so we'll see. And that sums up what I want to see from gaming in 2026. I'm bigcal. Thanks for watching. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of my list, if you think any of it is feasible, and let me know what you would like to happen in 2026, and I'll see you again next time.